Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I'm Katie Wrigley, neuroscience coach and entrepreneur. This podcast is for high-performing leaders who look capable on the outside, but know the pressure of carrying too much alone. Each week, we explore the internal and external systems that create real ease, from nervous system regulation to delegation and smarter support. If you're ready to build in a way that feels steady and sustainable, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Catapult Effect podcast. I have such a cool guest here with me today, and I am very excited to introduce you to him, Dr. Stephen Paul Edwards. He is an English businessman turned spiritual counselor, though that description barely scratches the surface. His early life was defined by ambition, discipline, and control. That resonates. But mostly failure also resonates. He built a successful career in business where precision, dominance, and results were everything. Then he tore it all down again. Then he rinsed and repeated. He thrived in high-pressure environments and was known for being direct, impeccably presented, and uncompromising in standards. Then he got depressed and felt sorry for himself. Later in life, after a series of deeply personal reckonings, he transitioned into spiritual counseling. Today, he holds a PhD in spiritual counseling and work with individuals seeking alignment between mind, body, and spirit. His journey from power-driven businessman to guide and personal transformation has shaped both his work and his voice. But before he got into all that, he forgot about it and entered into a very toxic, destructive relationship and lost everything, including himself. I cannot wait to dig into this, Dr. Edwards. Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that introduction. I don't know. I think I remember it from somewhere, but the fact that you did that homework and did that is very nice, and I'm grateful. So thank you very much, and for having me.
Thank you. So I would love if you would actually just go a little bit into your journey, especially that little hook at the end of the toxic relationship that made you lose everything after you had made all this progress. And I want to start there because that is so common that we change so much that we want to do in our lives. We think we're on the right path and we're like, oh, squirrel. And we go back into our old patterns again. So if it's okay with you to start there, I'd love to start there.
Absolutely. It's always funny though, everybody wants to know about when you screwed up, right? They don't care about the rest. It's good though. It's just good, right? I'm the same way. Yeah.
Well, it's what makes us relatable, right? Like the stuff that we do after we screw up is what makes it more powerful, but
it's so true.
Tend to be the relatable part.
I spent most of my life, I spent a lot of my early years screwing up, failures and all kinds of disasters, which is good. I think, it's good to make mistakes when you're young, right? But it would be good to stop making them at some point, right? Anyway, I was going through a divorce, right? And if you read the book, it had a few. So I was going through this divorce, my fourth divorce, right? Just to be clear. And any divorce is traumatic, right? It's never, I don't think anybody gets married to get divorced, right? They think this is going to be it. And that's what you want. So it was traumatic, but I was also at a point, which is reflected in why I was getting a divorce. I was burned out, as it says in my history, I've been really good at building things and then tearing them down because I lose interest. It's not my passion anymore, right? And sometimes I get to the end of that wall and I go, well, what do I want to do when I grow up, right? And then you go, well, I don't really want to grow up, but if I have to do something different, what's it going to be, right? And so I've reinvented myself so many times. I guess a pattern for me is to think that's a good thing, right? And then reinvent myself. It's a challenge, right? I need a challenge. This relationship was definitely a challenge, right? She challenged me on every level, and I challenged her too. But I was just at a point where, all the things I've done and you mentioned about being successful in the physical world and the material world, as it were, don't give you happiness, right? And everybody says that, and then people say, easy for you to say, right? But I've been there, I've done it, and they really don't bring you happiness. They're just things.
Yeah.
So I decided that I just wanted to have a good time. I'm at the point where I'm living this controlled life. My day was so disciplined, right? Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, meditating for an hour, going to the gym, coming back, having a juice, getting myself ready to go out and speaking for 7-8 hours, coming back, having dinner with the team, going to bed and doing it all again. So it's very structured. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I just got to the point where it wasn't new anymore. It wasn't exciting me anymore. I wasn't passionate about it anymore. And I just wanted to be free. I can remember so many times I was traveling every week to a different city. And you couldn't remember which city you were going to or which city you'd been to, right? It was just moving and moving and moving. But that was also a reflection of my life. It was a pattern in my life. I grew
Right.
up in an environment, and I think everybody can say this at some level. I had a terrible childhood. Well, who didn't, right? Most people do at some level, right? You think yours is the worst and nothing can compare, right? But I had a tough time. And so I always wanted to get away from my home. I wanted to run away from, I did run away from home about 8 times, but they kept catching me and bringing me back, right? So anyway, finally I got away from home and I spent the rest of my life traveling all the time. I'm from England originally, right? So then I was traveling all over England. I lived in most cities in England. Then I decided I was going to come to America, lived all over the United States. And so I came to a point pretty late in life, though, that I realized I was running away from my home, which was myself. I'm my home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was running to all these different places, excited to go to the new places because deep down, unconsciously, I thought that was going to be where I'd find myself.
Mm-hmm.
But as you and I both know, right? Wherever you go, there you are, right?
Yes.
So I went through this relationship, which was extremely traumatic, but it was also amazing. So it appealed to my excitement, the adventure. I was just listening this morning, actually. You know who Robert Greene is, right? I'm sure you do, the author, right? So I'm listening to a podcast and he's a guest. And the interviewer is just saying, well, why do people do this? Why do they get into these crazy relationships? And, why do women like bad guys and women like bad women, And he goes, it's just natural. It's our nature because we tend to hide the dark side of ourselves because we're too afraid for other people to see that. But then we're drawn to it because it has to come out one way or another. So we're drawn to it. We're drawn to the fact that that person is displaying really what we want to display, right? Who we want to be. And so we're drawn to that. And I thought, wow, so true because, all those things that happened in the story, in the book, which most of them are incredibly embarrassing, right? And things that you wouldn't normally tell people about yourself. But actually doing that gave me a sense of freedom I've never had before because now I can tell everybody about that, about my sexual desires, if they want to bring that up, my childhood when I was in a mental asylum, when I was laughed at school for having a small dick, all this stuff, right? That trapped me. I was so afraid. So I was in a prison of trying to be someone I really wasn't. And that makes you alone. That makes you feel alone. So I'm very grateful for what happened. I'm not going to go through it again, but I'm grateful for it happening to me or for me, right? I'm grateful to Tomas for bringing her, you probably heard this, in life, you tend to attract certain characters in your life. Sometimes you get a master teacher, right?
Yeah.
She was a master teacher for me, right? And maybe for me, maybe for her too. But anyway, I just learned so much about myself and let go of so much shame, so much guilt, so much fear that I would never have done had it not been for her, right? Never have done that. So she was a great teacher for me. And the whole story is a great teacher for me. It's also freaking hilarious, right? It's just so funny when you really get into it. Wasn't funny at the time, right?
Right. Right.
Afterwards, you go, that was freaking funny, right? She did this, I did that. It was like, it was a war for control, right?
Yep.
It was a war for control, right? And she's very, very strong and very smart. So there's this battle of wits going on, battle for control. Sex was off the charts. We were, at that time, I was doing pretty well financially, so we could go anywhere we want. She would come to my events, and we would cause all kinds of chaos and mayhem there as well. And so it was quite a ride. And I had to get off at some point because otherwise I would have lost. I lost a lot of myself, but I would have lost myself entirely.
Wow. There's so much that really resonates in your story there. And I'm kind of giggling at the hot sex thing. 'Cause I used to joke with my friends that no one puts up with bullshit for bad sex. No one. Like if the sex is bad, we're out. Like it
Right.
is the good sex that we
Yeah.
continue to justify. Like no one's in a
Yeah.
horrible relationship and having horrible sex. Like just no.
Yeah. But
At least
it's
I hope
funny.
not.
Yeah, and it's crazy. When you talk about that stuff, you think, oh my God, everyone's gonna vilify me. No one's gonna want to talk to me. They're gonna say this is really bad. But it's amazing how it just opens up the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
was talking to I was doing a group session somewhere and I was talking to people about, do you think I should tone it down? Do you think I should like just rewrite it and not write it so explicit? And they went, no, that's one of the best parts of the
Yeah.
book. And these are like women that you would think, they're probably thinking, this is ridiculous. You can't say that. You can't do that. But they were all for it, and it's just like you realize that this is just part of our nature. There's nothing wrong with it, right? And so it's going to push some boundaries, right? It's going to push some boundaries, I hope, right?
Yep.
And what I hear from people is, they see some of their own patterns from a non-confrontational perspective. You're reading the book and you go, oh, I've done that. I do that sometimes. And it can help wake people up to those patterns. And then, like you, I do coaching. So sometimes people then bring that to the table and we go through it, and it can save them years of their life. I wish I'd have known, right?
Right.
This saved me years of my life. So I didn't write the book because I'm trying to say I got it all together, right? I just wrote the book because I lived it. It's my
Yep.
story, right?
I had this thought the other night that it's sometimes really hard to write the story because it's still being written. So
That's
we
right.
may get a chapter done, or we may feel like, okay, this is a good place. And like I just went through the process of writing my own book. It's going to get released next month.
Congratulations.
And like it was a year of writing it and then a year of editing it, and so much
Hmm.
changed in those times. And
Yeah.
thank you, by the way. It's a lot to write a book. So kudos to you for having your book already out there. I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
And
Thank
I haven't read it yet, but it is very high on my list. I'm a
you. Yeah.
very avid reader and avid Audible listener person. And yeah, I consume as much as I
Yeah.
can, and self-help, real stories, all of that. And now I totally got off track with what I was thinking there. It
Well,
was more,
you were talking about how it was evolving as you were writing.
yeah, yeah, and it's hard to capture the story and we're gonna be writing our story until the day we leave this plane. And
Yeah.
so giving ourselves permission to continue to change from that place,
Mm,
sometimes that can be really hard to do because we're that whole identity piece, that's a big part that's integrated in the nervous system. Like as we're evolving our identities and becoming more of the person that we want to be, and letting go of the things that didn't serve us, but keeping the things, much to your point, that are still fun, that still feed into those things, but in ways that are less detrimental to our health, to our lives. Like that's part of the trick of growth, but it can be hard to really sum up where we are. So kudos to you for getting that book out there and being able to tell that story and continue to live your story too.
well, it's a little easy for me because I was writing a story that happened 10 years ago, right? So it wasn't still evolving at that time. But it's very synchronistic that you bring that up now because she has come back into my life, right? Which is
Interesting.
crazy, right?
Yep.
Well, and there are reasons for that. We're not going to get into too much detail, but here's the point. There's 3 books already. I've written 3 books, right? So this is the
Oh,
first
nice.
one. Second one is coming out in the next few weeks. And the third one, I'm almost finished, not quite finished yet. But her coming back into my life is going to be a 4th book. So it is still a book, right? From a very different perspective, because people have said to me for so long, because I really I took time out to write this book. I had other relationships after this relationship, and obviously the same result, right? So I finally said, I got to take a time out. I have to really sit down. And as I said to you earlier, I spent my whole life running away from my life. I never, ever reflected on my life, Katie. And yet there's just such a wealth of wisdom in there but I was just running away from it. So I said, I really need to sit down and write this book. Now, this would not be an easy book to write in a relationship, right? I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean? You understand that, right? I mean, you're with a woman and you're writing about all this crazy sex and all this stuff is going on. They're going to be like, what the hell have I got here, right? So I realized from that perspective that I needed to take a time out. I'd wanted to write the book for quite a long time. Anyway, so I took a 3-year time out and I'm still on that time out. So my point is, people say, well, you've taken all this time out, all this work, but are you healed? What would happen if she walked in the room right now? And I go, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the only way you ever know if you're healed is if you put in that place, right? So, and of course, writing the book, I'm thinking about her a lot. And thoughts attract, right?
Yep.
So I pulled her into my life. I know that, right? I know that I pulled her into.
Oops.
So, and it's a test for me. Are you ready? And
Mm.
so, not trying to be disrespectful, not out of any resentment, not out of any anger, I haven't responded. I haven't given any energy to it. Right. And so for me, that was big. Right.
That is
Again, I'm
big.
not saying I'm over it completely. Right. But at this point, I don't want to go back there. I have no interest. I don't want to be mean. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I know any response I have, I'm back in. Right. I
Yep.
know that. Right. It's like, a heroin addict, you say, well, I'll just do it one more time. No, you're not going to do it one more time. You're back in. Right. So I was pleased with myself from that perspective. Now, I'm not in a relationship right now. I have no real desire to be. I mean, I'm not saying I won't be in a relationship again. Let me just put it that way. If the right circumstances came up, but I'm not out looking for it. If somebody organically came into my life, great, I'm open to it. But other than that, I'm not looking for it. I'm not on any websites. So I think that's a good place to be. I think it's a good place to be. I feel great. One of the other things that's really important, Katie, is I always had to be in a relationship.
Mm.
I went from one relationship to another, right? I never spent any time on my own. I mean, I used to write journals. I mean, you think about the business that I was in, personal development, spiritual development, all these things that you got to have a journal. You got to write a journal every day and I did, but I didn't use it. Journals like this, right? So, it's one thing to know what to do. It's another thing to do what you know, right?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
But
the wake-up call for me too. So now I'm prepared to look back on my life and I enjoy it, and I enjoy the single life.
nice.
I thought I created a phrase in my mind, and this might be other people have said this probably many times, and I'm a bit slow on the uptake, but I came up with a phrase in my mind. I think I came up with it. Yeah. So people, people say, yeah, I'm married. I go, "Oh, nice. I'm very good. I'm very happily unmarried.
Nice. I love it.
I'm happy to be unmarried. I'll never marry again. That was big, right? It was huge. maybe I need to not push that away so much, but I don't know I'll ever live with anybody again. I love my own space and I love spending time with myself,
Mm.
Apparently not many women feel that way, but I'm okay with me.
And I want to end this part of the episode on that thought, but that's where we're going to pick up in the next part of this episode. Is I've actually come to a similar place myself where, like, I would like to have a partner at some point,
Yeah.
but I want someone that maybe doesn't want to live with me. Because I love
Yeah,
my own
right.
space. And like historically, even with great people I've lived with, which I didn't choose great people to live with for a long time, but even having really good people live with me, I'm just so used to having my own space that I prefer it that way. Like I'll split a duplex with someone. They can have one side, I can have
Yeah.
the other, and we can share as many
Yeah.
nights in our beds together as we want. But I do the best when I get a lot of room to
Yeah. Me
breathe
too.
in a relationship.
We should get into that in the next one.
Yes, absolutely. So come join us again. We are going to pick this up later this week if you're listening to this live, and come join Dr. Edwards and I again to continue this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next episode, please be well. Thanks for being here on the Catapult Effect podcast. If today's episode supported you, share it with another leader who's ready to create more ease in how they build. And leave a review so more heart-led leaders can find these conversations. You don't have to do everything yourself. When the right systems are in place, inside and out, business gets lighter. Until next time, protect your capacity.